latest news update from Western Mass News.
Good morning, I'm Glenn Kittle, and here's your latest news update from Western Mass News. Massachusetts Congressman John Oliver has died. Governor Maura Healey has ordered flags to be lowered to half staff at all state buildings in his honor. She issued a statement saying, quote, Congressman John Oliver dedicated his life to serving the people of Western and Central Massachusetts and always stayed true to his values. He was a strong advocate for affordable health care, abortion access, public transportation, and rural communities. I will always be grateful for his kindness and his friendship. He will be dearly missed, and my heart goes out to his loved ones. Yesterday, local leaders and students gathered in Springfield to kick off a new mental health awareness campaign designed specifically for youth. The campaign, called I Am More Than My Mood, focuses on mental health awareness and encouraging youth to talk about how they feel with peers and adults. Additional resources are available on the program's website, morethanmymood.org. And yesterday marked 1 year since Russian tanks stormed across the border of Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of people have died, millions have been displaced, and the economic impact has been felt around the world. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky marked the day in Kyiv with a rare press conference. He said he believes victory will be inevitable, thanks to the resolve of his troops and assistance from allies.
From frigid to some afternoon flakes on this last Saturday of February. First alert meteorologist Zach Duham. Teens in single digits to start, 20s by the afternoon. And a little batch of some light snow coming through, obviously with temperatures well below freezing. Whatever does fall will stick, so there could be a couple slick spots of coating in the valley, maybe an inch or two in the hill towns. But again, the timing is about midday. So if you're heading out and about, keep that in mind. You may need some salt on the roads for the plow drivers watching this morning. Keep that in mind as well. Now, for how much snow? Again, maybe an inch or two in the Berkshires up towards Greenfield, the coating, possibly an inch in the valley. I think that's over a little bit on the high side, though. The high side of the storm is going to be this week on Tuesday. Could be a lot of snow, potentially for double-digit snowfall. It does remain in the forecast, depending on this track of the storm. Obviously, several days to track. 24 today, 40 tomorrow. Snow shower this afternoon. Could dust up the ground. Rain shower tomorrow with temps near 40. That big weather headache Monday to Tuesday. The plowable snow looking more and more likely. Another storm to track later in the week as well. So very busy times ahead in the weather department.
Stay with Western Mass News on air, online, and on our app throughout the day for breaking news, weather, and exclusive content.